call for fingerprinting as a form of biometric identification to be added to the voter identification card would be an introduction of criminality in the election process. This posture is far from the truth. Rather, the insertion of fingerprint biometric identification helps to eliminate criminality from the electoral process. Tenure of office of the Chief Elections Officer. Our island pension and social security laws already acknowledges the retirement age will be 65 years. Therefore, the provision to increase the tenure of office of the Chief Elections Officer from 55 years to 65 years should be the easiest amendment to be included in the bills before Parliament. Reconfirmation of voters instead of total re-registration. Reconfirmation of voters exercise keeps the bloated electors list of 74,000 voters in a 72,000 person population as an extremely tainted act that corrupts Dominica's elections. Everyone in the electoral reform process has accepted that the current voters list is bloated and tainted. Therefore, there should be total re-registration of every voter to remedy the issue of the bloated and tainted voters list. If the bills remain as presented, then it legitimizes the bloated and tainted voters list. If the Prime Minister was to exercise his constitutional authority to call an election immediately after the bills become law, especially before the Electoral Commission would have completed implementation of the provisions of the new laws, elections would be held using the bloated and tainted voters list. An exercise of that authority by the Prime Minister with the voters list as is would be an insult, disrespectful, and immoral act by the Prime Minister, despite his exercise of that authority being a constitutional one. Composition of the Electoral Commission. This is another simple representation that should form part of the bill as recommended by Sir Dennis Barra in his report on electoral reform for Dominica. Campaign finance. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt's trivializing of the need for campaign finance legislation in Dominica is frightening and downright dangerous. Unregulated finance allows for purchased elections, which will always usher in corrupt governance at the dangerous expense of an unsuspecting citizenry. Unregulated donations made to political parties and candidates will make the party and the candidates beholden to those donors who would expect satisfying returns on their investments, thereby making the governance in the interest of these donors at the expense of the citizenry. The Prime Minister seemed to be glorifying the fact that in the recently held presidential campaign in the United States, he gloatingly reminds us that Vice President Kamala Harris raised and spent more than $1.4 billion for her campaign, in contrast to President Donald Trump's $400 million. Yet it was President Trump who rose victorious. The Prime Minister has failed to say to the Dominican citizenry from what source he got his information. Was it from the Secret Service, the FBI, the CIA? Was it confidential? Was it secret information? The Prime Minister, he has maliciously neglected to tell us that the rationale for campaign finance is not necessarily who wins, but how much was spent during the campaign. It is the public declaration of receipt of these funds and that advises the citizenry what was the source of the donated funds used to finance the election. This public declaration of funds falls under the purview of the U.S. campaign finance laws. That is how he was able to get the information, because there is law in the United States that requires candidates to declare the source of funds. These declarations allow the citizenry to determine whether the election and the emerging government was bought by big money interests with ulterior motives to exploit governance in the country. If anything, campaign finance laws must form part of the bills currently before Dominica's Parliament, as recommended by Sir Dennis Byron, for debate, passage, and eventual assent. Elections have consequences, for they allow for the election of people who will be mandated to govern the affairs of the state in a godly fashion, ethically, and an unreproachable sense of integrity and large dosages of accountability. Thank you for your attention. God bless you, and God bless the Commonwealth of Dominica.
All right, thank you. Give it up for Mr. Nicholas George for the opening speeches. And next up, we have a voice that we love to hear. Speaking on the consequences of elections, we have Mr. Honorable Mr. Lennox Linton.
Thank you, Yaro. Good night. Nice to see y'all. Been a little while. All right. Give me a second here. Let me work out something here. All right. Good evening, everybody. Good to see y'all. We having this town hall meeting tonight so that we could share some information about the bills that are going before the Parliament sometime this quarter, what that means for the electoral reform we've been talking about for a number of years, and where do we go from here? All right. We have an electoral system that allows the ruling party to steal elections through corrupt manipulation of the registered voters resident overseas, bribery, treating, the abuse of state resources, control of the media, and unrestricted election campaign spending. Within all of those, the Labour Party has found a strategy that it has engaged over the last 4 to 5 election cycles to ensure that election results come back in its favor. And this electoral fraud, let's call it for what it is denying the people the right to free and fair elections of government, of the people, by the people, for the people. It has severely compromised the rule of law. It has fatally undermined good, accountable, transparent government. Manipulation of the electoral process has undermined the credibility of institutions like the Electoral Commission judiciary, and the security forces, these institutions have become tools of the ruling party. They have lost their independence, and the people have lost confidence in them as checks and balances in this democracy. The economic consequences of government by electoral fraud have been brutal. For 25 years, we have remained the smallest, slowest growing economy in the OECS with the largest cabinet of ministers. Corruption and mismanagement have increased and accountability has diminished, while self-preservation of the ruling party has been prioritized over national development. We have had 4 elections since the 2008 May Day alert to Roosevelt Skerrit from Anthony Astafan that a decision by the Electoral Commission to clean the voters list and issue ID cards for voting meant madness was going on at the commission that would destroy his re-election legacy. For 17 years, we have stood aside and looked as the corrupt manipulation of the electoral process against free and fair elections protected Skerrit's re-election legacy. And during that time, we sank deeper and deeper into the crisis of what Skerrit calls a country adrift with misleadership and corrupt, incompetent management. In the words of his ousted second-in-command, Reginald Ostry, quote, "last for too long in this world and behind in too many things." Every year of government by electoral fraud has brought greater hardship and misery to the people of Dominica. The leader of government by electoral fraud boasted that Dominica spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year to employ foreigners in construction and other areas while Dominicans stand aside and look. Unemployment increased and working poor people were burdened with higher prices for food, for clothing, for shelter, for water, for lights, and phone communication. Government by electoral fraud imposed a garbage tax that takes over $10 million a year from the people of this country and is unable to make proper arrangements for garbage collection and disposal. The growth engines of the economy, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing services, either declined or remained at a standstill, going nowhere fast through the underperformance of these economic engines under the incompetence of government by electoral fraud. We have been denied thousands of good-paying jobs and national income contributions of hundreds of millions of dollars. Healthcare standards declined dramatically under the pressures of inadequate medical supplies and dysfunctional hospital management systems. Government by electoral fraud says, "I see you to die. Bye-bye. I see you to die. Goodbye." Government by electoral fraud turned its back on hosting games in the ICC T20 Cricket World Cup and could not have cared less that St. Lucia came right here in Dominica to NBD to borrow Dominica's money to meet its host responsibilities for the same ICC Cricket World Cup. Government by electoral fraud has been a serial killer of the hopes and dreams of young people in this country. Yet ministers of government by electoral fraud received hefty salary increases of between $2,300 and $4,000 per month, while thousands of public servants received not one red cent more on their meager wages and salaries. Under government by electoral fraud, we lost visa-free access to Britain because certain Dominican CBI agents insisted on selling Dominican citizenship to crooks and criminals at bargain prices and without proper due diligence. The beneficiaries of electoral manipulation also confirmed that Scarrett's passport selling deal with Anthony Hayden of MMC has forced government into a situation where it is now receiving less than 10% of Dominica's citizenship by investment revenues, while Hayden controls over 90% of this money that belongs to the people of Dominica. Before Hayden came, we were receiving CBI revenues in excess of $500 million a year through the Economic Diversification Fund. I remind you of the monthly cash flow report to Parliament for the period July 1st, 2016 to March 30th, 2017. 9 months. $396.9 million, an average of $44.1 million per month before the fraudulent deal to give Hayden his own CBI facility that has effectively driven Dominica's CBI program down to significantly less income from significantly higher passport sales. For the 8-year period, 2016 to 2024, the government by electoral fraud has refused to account for $8 billion from the sale of over 50,000 Dominican passports that was not placed in the consolidated fund of Dominica as mandated by the Constitution. Remember, this misleader who professes to love Dominica so much has placed over 90% of Dominica's citizenship money in the hands of his friend to do things that the people are paying government to do. Now, while the privately owned House of Dark Secrets built with Dominica passport money is complete and sitting there idle and empty for over a year, public infrastructure projects that Hayden is responsible for, like the Dominica Grammar School, are in go-slow mode or they have shut down. With Scarrett's blessings, Hayden is still selling passports how he wants and for whatever he wants in breach of the law. And rather than deal with this dangerous state of affairs for Dominica, government by electoral fraud is ensuring that the multi-billion-dollar fraud against the people continues to go from bad to worse. New election laws in 2025 that do not adequately provide for free and fair elections is an affront to democracy and an undeniable abuse of power that disqualifies Scarrett as a fit and proper person for leadership responsibility in Dominica. So, let's get real tonight. This is crunch time. Has been crunch time for a while, but it has to be crunch time for more than the number of you who are here tonight. It has to be crunch time for all of us in Dominica, serious business. This is a time to confront a tyrannical misleader who believes Dominica is his personal domain in which he can manipulate elections and blatantly violate the will of the people to perpetuate his dictatorial rule. And for all of you here tonight, and for all of your brothers and sisters across Dominica, this is a time to decide where do the people of Dominica stand. Do you stand for the man who wants to own and control Dominica for the multi-billion-dollar gain of himself and his foreign friends, or do you stand for Dominica? And if you stand for Dominica, What are you willing to do to ensure that we resolve this crisis that just seems to be getting worse and not better? Let's talk about it. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the Honorable Mr. Lennox Linton. Now, just before we proceed, we are going to take a very short pause to just announce that the UWP's youth arm is currently having a carnival ticket raffle. Currently, we have one of the members of the youth arm present with us. Miss Francis, are you here? Okay, she seemed to have stepped out, but currently we are having a raffle. The prizes are tickets to the Carnival Gopher, tickets to the Carnival Gopher. We also have tickets to the Calypso Finals, as well as tickets to Sunrise for only $5 a chance. Feel free to reach out to me as the PRO or any one of the youth arm members or Miss Francis once she returns to purchase your tickets. As we proceed, our next speaker will be speaking on the UWP's position on electoral reform. And to do so, we have the Honorable Dr. Thompson Fontaine, the political leader, to speak to us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sabroch or PRO, and let me say a very special welcome to all of you here tonight. It's good to see all of you. It's good to see more of you, but it's great that we are all here. And on this very important issue of electoral reform, and to those of you who are tuned in via the different media, social media, as well as Q95 that is streaming us live tonight. So we are reaching beyond this room, literally thousands of Dominicans, both here and abroad. So it is indeed an honor for me to be able to speak to you tonight on this very critical issue of electoral reform. But before or even as I begin to address you tonight, and we'll be hearing from you a little later, I'm sure you are all aware that we live in a country, currently Dominica, that has been pushed under by the weight of an incompetent, non-caring, and quite frankly, greedy government. And the greedy few, not even a greedy government, a greedy few. There are few individuals who have found a way in this country to become extremely rich, filthy rich, at the extent or at the exclusion of the majority of Dominicans. I spent a great deal of time on the roads in various villages across Dominica, and it is extremely, extremely, extremely frustrating and depressing to see what this gem of an island has become under this administration. It's extremely depressing because I talk to mothers, I talk to fathers, I talk to men, I talk to young people who don't even have, quite frankly, don't even have a future in this country. I can tell you the number of young people that I meet who are frustrated because all they have is a shot at the energy program. Some of them tell me they have gone to state college, they have learned, they have studied hard, and that is what this country offers them. And this country offers them that when you think that there is just so much this country has, yet it is concentrated in the hands of a few. And I'm saying this tonight to get to the point of electoral reform, because you will understand, if you have not already done so, that the only reason why we are having this issue or this problem of getting electoral reform, the only reason is that there is in this country of ours a group of individuals, a very small group of individuals, who are determined that they are going to maintain their level of wealth, were convinced that they're going to continue to take from the people of Dominica, and nothing will stand in the way. And that's why this fight becomes important. That's why this struggle becomes important. Because ordinarily, electoral reform is not a big issue. These are issues that have been dealt with in our neighboring countries. The list is not clean. They take a pause, they clean the list, and it is done. In fact, I got a call today from a young man who lived in Antigua. And he told me it's a pity. He was looking for his voter ID card. He could not find it, but he was in Antigua, Dominica. And he said when the Antiguans were ready for electoral reform, they simply called the Jamaicans. The Jamaicans came, did a few seminars with the electoral office, and then electoral reforms were done. The new list was done, new registration took place. In a few months, everybody is happy, and the country moves on. Yet here in Dominica, we have been screaming and shouting and kicking and fighting over something that really should be simple and straightforward. And we have to ask ourselves, why is it that this Prime Minister, I say this Prime Minister, because he has disregarded the advice of the experts, he has disregarded the recommendations of the electoral office, and we have to ask ourselves, why? Just take a little time and think of this question. Why is this Prime Minister so intent on not allowing electoral reform? Or why is he so intent on having his own version of electoral reform? What we currently have on offer before us, the legislation that we are seeing, it is very clear, with only one intention, and that is to maintain the cheating legacy of this government. So I want to ask you a question, Dominicans. Are we going to accept this? Are we going to sit eye in the eye and see the future of our children wasting away? When I close my eyes at night, I see and I play in my mind the conversations that I've had throughout the day with the young people of this country, with the farmers, the housewives, the unemployed, the frustrated. And I worry about it. I worry because I'm thinking this does not have to be this way. Dominica does not have to be where it is today in terms of the high level of unemployment, in terms of the complete disregard of the agriculture system, in terms of the high tax charges, high taxes on the Dominican public, water bills going up, electricity going up, public servants' salaries stuck in reverse for over 50 years, prices going up, dreams destroyed, futures shattered, all because of a few individuals who want to maintain their level of wealth. So they build one mansion, that's not enough. They build a second mansion. And as they go on be, and it's big belly season, they're getting bigger and the back is growing. The average Dominican is getting pressed into the ground. And that is why we are fighting for electoral reform. You see, because in the absence of electoral reform, this is going to continue. In the absence of electoral reform, this is going to continue. And sometimes we talk about electoral reform, and someone say, but you guys, so many people talk about why do you keep on this electoral reform? Well, here is the reason why we keep on this electoral reform. Because this government, in election time, they will not campaign. They will not go and even promise anything to the Dominican public. Because they know what their formula is. The formula is, you look at the voters list, the bloated voters list, you realize that 70% of the people in, let's say, Grand Form are out of the constituency, yet their name remains on the voters list. You realize that the workers is doing reasonably well in this community, so you need probably another 25 people from the 70% outside to win. So you go outside, you charter planes, you bring them in, they vote, and then they leave the next day. So you have nothing to promise the people. No promises made, so no promises kept. No promises made. Agriculture continues to decline, so it doesn't matter how poor people get. It does not matter how desperate the country gets. It does not matter how incompetent and completely out of it this government is. They simply will not do anything to address the problems because they know that in the absence of electoral reform, they can continue forever. And I don't know if you guys are getting this, you know. I don't know if the Dominican public understand what is happening today. I don't know. I sometimes think about it and I want to really understand what is at play here. Why, for example, when you talk about electoral reform, of a voters list that is 74,380,000 persons, when you have a population of just about 70,000? Why is it so difficult to take that voters list, throw it in the sea and say, you're done for, we're not even looking at you? Why it is that in the proposed legislation, the government is saying we will start with this old voters list. We will start with it, and you will come and reconfirm that you are who is on this list. But bear in mind, on this list, Jason Brown was already voting for Jack Henry in Dallas. All right? So now Jason Brown represents himself as Jack Henry. And Jason Brown gets a voter ID card in the name of Jack Henry. Right? Because Jason Brown, his only role is to ensure that his government stays there. And in return, he walks away with his $500. But who sells out the country for $500, by the way? And it is who sells out the country. And I'm telling you, I get the impression that Dominicans don't understand, or sometimes in the diaspora, we're not understanding what is going on. So people accuse us of saying, well, you don't want the diasporans to vote. I don't even think the diasporans want to vote. You see, we had an election in 2022. How many diasporans came to vote? If it was about voting, they would have come in 2022. Why did they not show up in 2022? If it is so important, you need to exercise that franchise. You need to vote. Why did you not come and vote in 2022 when there was an election? So it's not about the need to vote. It is about that $500. It's about that plane ticket. That's what it's about. And in going after that, they fail to understand the bigger picture. That when they do that, when these actions are taken, at the back of it is the misery, the pain, the suffering, the incompetence, the lack of governance, the uncaring nature of this government. That is the result of their actions. And so, we have a problem, a big one, with what is being proposed in this legislation. And let's begin with the voters list. Let's begin with the voters list. The current legislation that is being proposed is asking for a reconfirmation. So the plan of this government is we start with the list, voting list. We then ask for a reconfirmation. So we reconfirm everybody on this list of whoever is alive, they are reconfirmed. But wait a minute, they don't stop there. They say if during that process, which should take 12 to 15 months, if within that time period an election is called, then they go back to the same old list. Does that sound to you like a reform? That's what I'm saying, that this list should not be the picture. This government should be able to tell the Dominican public, we have a 5-year mandate. We are going to take 3 months of those 5 years, and we are going to clean this list by having a purely a re-registration. All it takes is 3 months. Within 3 to 6 months, we don't have to call elections, but within those 3 to 6 months, we will go for a re-registration that will allow us to have cleanliness. So all of our dear friends in diaspora who qualify will find themselves on this list and they can keep voting. So it's not about keeping anybody out. It is about ensuring that we get our country back. We have lost Dominica. We have lost our country. And you have a prime minister, by the way, who feels that somehow this country belongs to him. So a few years ago, there was talk of living in 2025. Now we are talk of 5 more years. So you wonder what's going on. All across the world, prime ministers and presidents are stepping aside and saying enough is enough. Others are saying no, even if after promises of living, it is not enough. And you have to wonder why. If you are still not sure, I would invite you to take a drive to Mount Daniel tomorrow morning. Take a drive up to Mount Daniel and you will understand. How did we get there? How did we get to a place where we have individuals who are supporting this? It is one thing for a prime minister or a few to behave in a certain manner. It's another thing for Dominicans in the right mind to support this. So what do we want? So let's be very clear. This electoral reform is not about the people of Dominica. It's not about safeguarding our democracy. It is not about correcting the things that the most brilliant justices in this part of the world says exist in Dominica. It's not about the many, many reports written by the electoral missions that have come to Dominica election after election. Say the same thing election after election. The elections are not free, they're not fair. That these things need to be corrected. It's nothing about that. It's about maintaining in office a few individuals. It's not even so much about governance. You look at government today, you look at the people who run those offices and you wonder. Persons without experience, persons who don't know whether they are going up or coming down. And I'm not saying that to put anybody down. But I'm saying that if you're going to have a government, you need to have people in place who understand what they're doing. You need to have people in place who understand what the policy means. You need to have people in place who can look at for example, the court charges and say, well, the people of Dominica are very strong with those court charges. What can we do to alleviate? What can we do to ease the pressure on the people? What kind of policy can we put in place as a government? Today, I went to my village because there was, you must have heard of the 48 plane crash in the southeast of the country. So I went there today to witness some of the rescue efforts that we to see. I decided to stop, but I was going up the hill so I could take a good look at where the plane went into the mountain, and I saw the condition of the playing field. And that's a playing field that, as a young boy, I used to play that in cricket. We saw people into schools, ran for playing against Montreal and so on. And you'd have the villagers, the parents, they're screaming and shouting for their children and so on. Great fun on this field. Yet, today is the home of abandoned vehicles and bush and woods, and the children have nowhere to play. And this is the kind of government we are supporting, This is the kind of government that has turned its back on the young people of this country. A government that has said the best that we can offer you, young people, after 10, 15 years of study, is we can put a weed cutter in your hand and take you to the roadside to cut the grass. This is sad. This is sad. Imagine if that happened during nighttime, growing up as a kid. I would probably still be cutting grass by the roadside. You know, we have in this country. We need to act like we care about this country. We need to be singing together, Clap, Kitty, Pray, Dominic, or No. So that's one, the voters list. We are saying that we do not want a reconfirmation, that it must be a complete re-registration. Number one. With regards to the voter ID cards, we have a half measure. They said, okay, they will give you voter ID cards, and that's what we want taken. We said, no, we need the biometrics of it. We need to be sure, like they do in Antigua, put the fingerprints on the back of the thing, man. Let's get the fingerprints there. Plus the photo. That's not difficult to do. It is easy. That's number two. Election campaign finance. The legislation is extremely silent when it comes to election campaign. It is silent. Why? Because the government knows that they've already set aside X million. We saw the bill in 2009 election that was linked. $9.4 million to bring in chartered planes to Dominica. It was 9.4 in 2009. It's probably about 15, 20 million right now to bring those same plane loads in. Well, they have to bring twice as many plane loads because on the ground the support is eroded quickly. You know, and if you've been on the ground, you'll understand that the support is eroded. So now the calculations is a bit more complicated, I suspect. The calculations now is about, well, if we were bringing in 5 planes this time, it has to be probably 15 or 20 planes. So, you know, it multiplies very, very quickly. So there is no mention of electoral reform or election campaign finance. And that's important because you must have a level playing field. In countries like Barbados, where they applaud the democracy, you have a limit on the amount that can be spent by a political party per constituent. I think it is $10 per constituent. That makes it nice and easy and decent. It makes it, at the end of the day, who is best suited to run the country. And let's face it, and let's talk, let's be honest with ourselves. If, as this government claims it is so popular, it's the best thing that has happened to Dominica ever. The best government, the best roads, the best airport, the best state-of-the-art hospital, the best schools, the best. Well, if you've done the best, why is it so difficult for you to go to the people whom you offered the best and say, elect me? Why not have the level playing field that says, I can stand on my record, I can stand on my performance? And the people of Dominica, they're honest people. They're honest people. I can guarantee you, they will, with a level playing field, if you have performed, we'll give that to you. But why do you want to ensure that you cheat? And so no election campaign finance. So we have to be pushing for this. Election offenses of bribery and treason. Again, the legislation is silent on this. The freedom of our constitution is in the constitution. It was there in the constitution, it's there in the electoral laws. They understood that the election process is so critical that it cannot and should not be tainted. And the easiest way to taint an election is to bribe persons, to bribe individuals. I remember when I was campaigning in 2014, I went to a dear old lady's home and started talking to her, asking for a vote. She confessed that she likes me a lot, she likes the party, United Workers' Party, but she can't really vote for us this time. So I asked why. I said, why can't you vote? She says, well, they gave me $500, and I find it hard to vote against that because of the $500. And mark you, this government understands that, I mean, that is $500. There's one who confessed that they gave it for $20. So they understand the psyche of the Dominican public. All right? So it's easy to bribe. And your bribe pays big time. In finance, we say it pays dividends. It works. You bribe and therefore you get a direct reward. So the legislation that's going forward is silent on this. And we are saying that there must be in this legislation allowance that makes bribing and treating a criminal offense. We saw it in St. Martin just a month ago. A young man has gone to jail for trying to bribe someone to vote. This is serious. This is a serious crime. This is a very serious crime. And this serious crime is taking place in Dominica. We're just not looking at it. We're just not taking it on. So we need to do better than that, Dominica. We absolutely have to do better than this. And access to the media. I'm happy to see that in the media tonight we have PBS with us. It's welcome to Africa. It's good to be there. We will hope to be live on PBS radio. We requested, we wrote to PBS to be live, and that was turned down. So we are only on the record. Yeah, so good to see you. So we'll get something on the news tomorrow morning, hopefully. But access to the media is something, our democracy. It is just not a level playing field when the government, by virtue of being able to use taxpayers' money, because the staffers at PBS are paid from taxpayer dollars, that only the government gets the benefit that our voices are not heard on the radio. So in the legislation, they have not agreed that they will have access to PBS radio. That's great, we welcome that. But what about the other media in Dominica? Every single media house in Dominica should be made to cover the campaigns of the opposition. If you're not covering one, you don't cover any. But don't cover only the ruling government and ignore the opposition. You, the media, you are not doing right by the people of Dominica. And so if you cannot do right, the legislation should force you to do right. And therefore there should be penalties for those who do not allow access to the media. There should be penalties for radio stations that do not allow us to go live. So for example, we reached out to Kyrie again, and we will turn down tonight on the critical matter of electoral reform. When the government is having its turmoil on electoral reform, they're all there. So why is it that we cannot get the same treatment as the government? Why? So when people are fed on a diet of lies and a diet of half-truths, and so you're not really there. But frankly, when people are just, you're kind of feeling, we used to say when something wrong with you, you kind of feeling, like you just seem to be shrinking. That's what's happening, because our people, that's a diet that they've been fed on. And I can tell you the hard work we have ahead of us as we talk to the people across Dominica. And Dominica is such a beautiful country, but we must get this thing straight. So what are we going to do, and what should we do? So that is our position. We have some very clear positions. We have written to the government in much detail about what we want. We are not going to bore you tonight with those level of details. But just be clear, these are the things that we are pushing for. Again, a clean voters list that can only be done through a complete re-registration. Again, what I mean by that, you set aside your list and everybody who is eligible to vote, as is outlined in the Constitution of Dominica, and Mr. James, I think it's Article 32, right? 33.2, Article 33.2 of the Constitution is enshrined that those who are allowed to vote. So it's not about where you live, it's about the conditions. Commonwealth citizen over the age of 18 and that you are residing or you domicile in Dominica. That is our supreme law. That is what. So if you satisfy those three conditions, nothing to fear. You can be re-registered according to the laws of Dominica. That is how you were registered in the first place, anyways. All of our voters were not overseas. When you registered, they registered because they qualified under those three Article 42.3 of our Constitution. And it has not changed. It is the same as it was then when they registered. It is the same as it is today. And so we continue to urge Dominicans to support our efforts at electoral reform. We are looking to see what's going to come out of the legislation for readings 2 and 3. We'll be paying very close attention. But let's be very clear, Dominica, we have to be prepared to take the necessary action. Because this election thing is a serious thing. This election thing is the difference between our young people, educated young people, cutting grass at the road or driving around Dominica in their latest Honda CR3 or CRX or whatever it is. That is what it is. Literally, that's what it boils down to. That is how critical the elections are. It's about our future. It's about our children's future. It's about the future of this great country. Let us not take this lightly. Let us make this our mission. As I said before, this is a struggle that must be waged. This is a battle that must be won. So let us work together, Dominica, to ensure that we get the reforms that we need. And let us work together above all to ensure that the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, becomes the next government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. God bless you. And of course, we will be open for discussion as well and the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The Honorable Thompson County, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the floor is open, but just before we do that, we have one youth member present here who has tickets for the aforementioned Carnival raffle. Now, just to reiterate, the prizes are one ticket to the Carnival Hopewell, one ticket to Sunrise, and one ticket to the Calypso Finals for only $5 a chance. She's in the crowd. If you could just stand so people can see you. So for those who are interested, you can go to this young lady here and she will provide you with the tickets, provide you with additional information, and the draw ends on the 26th of February. Thank you very much in advance. Feel free to open your pockets. We appreciate it. Now the floor is open for any questions or suggestions or any words from you, all of the citizens.
Yes, good evening to each and every one. Now, when I see so many people out here, it shows me that a lot of people is very interested in the well-being in Dominica. Now, I got a little piece of Honorable Mr. Limber, just a little piece of it. So I was a little bit under England. I got a piece of Mr. Roland Patrick John, the late Mr. Roland Patrick John. but I get a whole piece from Mr. Honorable Edison James when he became Prime Minister. I also witnessed the Freedom Party. So I know what it is to have good governance. I know what is good governance. So that is why tonight I can tell you how important it is for us to get electoral reform. Because that is the only way we can get back good governance. By if we get a free and if we get fair election in our country, and then we can choose whichever government we want to lead us, that is how we are going to be free in our country. So, right now, I can tell you straightforward that the United Workers' Party have a lot of good plans. And the plans they have is to govern Dominica the right way, where every Dominican will profit. It's not where some going to get and some not going to get. It's not where our young people going to go and study, and when they come back they don't have a job. It's going to have job opportunity for our young people. Our young people are going to be trained and properly trained so that they can get good jobs in the country. There, no foreign contractors will not come and profit better than our own contractors in Dominica. Our fees will not be so high that we cannot afford to go and order anything, and we cannot afford to take it up in our home. For those of you who have vehicles for 100 years and cannot license it, because if in order to license it, you have to pay all the years that it is. When the United Workers' Party take in government, we going to put them aside and make you start paying fresh. We going to put that on, and you will start paying fresh, brand new. So if your vehicle have never insured for 20 years, it's going to be insured now. So you're going to be good on the road. The United Workers' Party going to fix our highway. You see, the road is spoiled. They spoiled our road from under Mountain Hill to reach to Goodwill. That road spoiled. There's supposed to be a 4-lane road, and for some reason they make it a one-way road, like a horse track. They put a big wall in the center of the road with light in the center of the road. Then the sidewalk itself is bigger than the road. We're going to fix that. We're going to show all you what is real road. So my people, that is the reason we have to help the United Workers' Party to get back our get electoral reform, clean our voters list, and let it put back the United Workers' Party back in power so things can be going on in Dominica. I will do.
Thank you very much, very much, Mr. James. Okay, so for those who are interested in speaking, feel free to come to the platform.
Thank you very much, Madam PRO, head table. I recognize you and thanks for allowing me to speak. Good evening. You know, I've been hearing talk that we are talking too much in Dominica. That prompts in this matter. And that prompts me to remind ourselves of what I heard from a great man years ago. Joy is better than war. And for me to say that in human endeavor, any human endeavor, there's thoughts, there's word, and there's deed. So you think about something, and depending on what action has to be taken, you talk, you communicate, and then you act. So I'm glad that there has been this question, this matter of talking. We've been talking for a long time. And don't fool yourselves. The talk is not falling on deaf ears. We have been told on many occasions by Mr. Skerritt, who is the be-all and end-all of the government. No, we're fooling ourselves about 21 or 19 members of parliament. There's only one. There's only one, and it's Mr. Skerritt. Only one. So when I say government, I say Skerritt. When I say Skerritt, I say that's what it is. So he has been saying, if you've heard from time to time, I done with that. No consultation. No, I finished with that. We hear that. After Wednesday night, I think it was here, with all the bravado and all the noise and the talk, you know what he did? He formed what he calls a parliamentary committee, comprising 12 members of government, 6 opposition members, the Speaker, the Clerk of the House, and the Cabinet Secretary. He formed a parliamentary committee. That's good. What is the top? Nobody fought. What is the top? For him to do that. So don't believe that the talk is not having effect. There is a time when the talk must stop, but it's you who will decide when that talk will stop. So I just want to say a few things here tonight. I did say to the head table people when they suggested that I be part of that, the head table, that no, I just want to say my little piece on the side. Okay? But the major concerns that Dominicans have had over the last 2 decades about this electoral reform matter have to do with the list, the cleaning of the list, and ID cards for voting, and campaign financing. They have been failing the government, and when I say the government, so the government has been telling us that the list is not going to remove anybody from the list. It's not going to disenfranchise anybody. But here what the Caribbean Court of Justice has to say about the list. If you're taking notes, take notes. No, but I think it's on the sheet that you have there. I'm just reading from the sheet that you have there. They said election lists are central to legitimate and lawful elections. Those of you who are listening and you're not here, so you don't have a copy of this document, see if you can hear me and retain what I'm saying. It's the CCJ, our highest court. Electoral lists are central to legitimate and lawful elections. The view of this court is that non-compliance of electoral laws in this regard is an eventuality that the court must resolutely set its face against. So when the government tries to downplay the whole question in this, that's what the court is telling us. The other matter is ID cards. As you heard from the political leader, they give us a piece. They give us a piece. ID card with facials but not fingerprinted. And this is, the government tells us, if you put fingerprint, it will mean it's criminals you're talking about. That is not true. And the government is saying a number of things that are not true. He's saying there's the only situation in which you have fingerprints in Dominica is what? When they tell me when you go for the citizen investment, then you have to do fingerprints. So the government is wrong in that regard. And then there's campaign financing. That these are the 3 major elements that have been concerned to us. And why does the government not want to do the electoral reform to allow for free and fair elections? You know why? Because they know that once free and fair elections take place, they'll be out of government. They do not want to be out of government. Ladies and gentlemen, Austria has told us that we are last in everything. We are behind in everything. So it cannot be based on performance that the Labour Party has continued to be in office for so many years. It cannot be based on performance. And if it is not based on performance, it can only be based on TV. Well, TV. It can only be based on TV. And they want to continue in government, so they can do what they want to us. They can do what they want with us. They can cuss us over the want. They just tell us it's free and in our ass. They can tell us these insulting things. And you know, I see somebody from DBS here. I understand that the radio station, they are telling people when the calypso of the Calypsonian is being played, and the verse or the phrase about the fraud in the ass, you must not say that. But that is what the government wants to do, to accuse us, to curse us, don't perform, so they can stop an airport. Because remember, the United Workers' Party was advanced in the process of constructing an airport in this country. $16 million have been paid, land secured, all the proper documents done. They stopped the airport. And they now embark on taking people's land at Wesley. And as I read from the concerns of Lennox Honey Church, then we have a situation now where we are being colonized again in Wesley. These are the kind of consequences of elections that are not fair, do not represent the wishes of the people. But let me just say quickly, when you hear them talk about we want to disenfranchise people and so on, that is not true. Ladies and gentlemen, Dominicans are enfranchised. They become eligible to vote for elected representatives when three things happen. You are a Dominican or you're a Commonwealth citizen, a nationality. You are 18 years or over, and you are resident in Dominica, resident or domicile in Dominica. That is when you become eligible to vote. Once you are so eligible, you then get registered. If you are not eligible, if you are not a Commonwealth national, if you are not 18 years or over, and if you are not resident in Dominica, then you are not entitled to be registered. When you are registered, then it is only by your action that you become liable to be taken off the list. Because if you are no longer a citizen, and you can then renounce your citizenship, remember that? Or you can then say, I am no longer resident in Dominica. So you go to Guadeloupe, and then sometimes you come back by your vote or something. So, but you go to Guadeloupe or you go to England, then you yourselves have taken your hands and de-residential yourself. That's a word? Yeah. So you ladies and gentlemen, you are the one. Me, I have taken my hand and I made myself ineligible. So it's not anybody. We cannot disenfranchise you. Nobody can disenfranchise you. It's you yourself. So when Skerrit said not Skerrit, the government. When the government says for philosophical reasons, I am not going to disenfranchise anybody. So I'm not going to take anybody's name off the register. There are about 20 provisions in the bills they have there before us for people's names to be taken off the register legally. Because they must abide by the Constitution. So I just want to say that to us, ladies and gentlemen. So all this talk that it's coming with, you have the responsibility. And we are giving you information. You have to decide what action you take. And when I say you, I'm going to put myself in that. All of us here put ourselves in that. Because we will be we. But it's not us up here who will tell you what to do. I'm going to say. So now they talk about campaign finance. Well, the leader gave us an indication as to why they are resisting this electoral reform that we're asking for. Because what they do, they check the list just as we check the list. They see that we have 50 votes more than them. So then they go and they bring in 80 people from wherever. You disagree with me, I hear you say that's right. So they bring in 80 people. So they snuff us out. That is what they do. And for them to bring in the 80 people, they have to pay. So you know what? The document in the position of the Labour Party for the 2009 election, that the leader referred to it. They provided 3.2 million EC dollars to pay airfares and whatever for 600 overseas voters to come in here. The total amount they budgeted for that 2009 elections was $23 million. So they have to get the money. Where do they get the money, ladies and gentlemen? From us. Our passport. Our passport. Because there's an arrangement with one of the people who gives them from whom they get the money. He bathes in that person, bathes in money. He have a bath in our money anytime he wants. He has a bath. Bathing in our money. Okay? So, that is where they get the money from. That is why they do not want campaign finance legislation, because the campaign finance legislation will restrict them in terms of the amount of money they can spend, and they have to declare where they get the money from. That is why they don't want it. Okay? So I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, let us be very vigilant. Don't mind the talk, let us talk still. The action I would suggest, and the government says that why they're not introducing campaign financing, although Mr. Bayer recommended it, is because he had a meeting with CARICOM leaders, he discussed it with CARICOM leaders, and they said this is a most difficult thing, and so on the basis of that discussion with CARICOM leaders, they're not going to pursue campaign financing. But I want the media to pick up from us tonight that we are very disappointed that our CARICOM leaders, who themselves have campaign finance regulations and laws, are conniving with Mr. Skerry to deny us such an important facility towards our free and fair elections. But at the same time, those same people will send policemen and soldiers down here with guns on the eve of our elections, perhaps to damage us. I want the media to pick that up, and you can ask the political leader. I'm a small fry, so I want to say this, but the political leader will be happy to tell you, to tell the region how disappointed we are. Whether it's Barbados, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's St. Vincent, whether it's Antigua, whether it's Ghana, tell them how disappointed Dominicans are that they should connive with Roosevelt Skerry to deny us such an important aspect of our electoral process, while they themselves are enjoying that facility wherever they are. The media cannot just sit down and passively come here and talk and go talk and whatever. That there's a role they have to play. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I can stay too much longer. Just to tell you that it is now in our hands. The media, the private sector, the unions, the political parties, all of us start to think about what we do. You cannot leave it for Combs and Lennox and Edison. All of us before the court. All of us before the court, because we have been doing our bit to try and inform you, educate you. So you now must come forward and deal with it. We've been talking, we took some action, they have us in court. That doesn't frighten us. Doesn't frighten you? No, it don't frighten them. It don't frighten us. As we were going, clink, clank, clank, I tell you really, when I was in the game. Clink, clank, clank. That's how we would have put me inside. Okay? So don't worry about that, you go and you come out. Okay? But let us dedicate ourselves to taking action. We have asked for a meeting, the United Workers' Band. I've asked for a meeting with Mr. Skerry and his technical people to sit down and go through line by line the provisions of the bills before us. I think I know it by heart now. I know some people know it by heart. Let us sit down, go through line by line, and make the necessary changes so that when we come out from there, we come out with a bill or bills that are acceptable to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A man who really needs no introduction. Yes, sir.
No, this still at the back. The first one, then this one.
Good.
Come now.
Good night. What's wrong? What's wrong? Honorable UWP leader, Mr. Lennox Linton, good night. Mr. George, brothers and sisters, good night. I am Vince Kroll from Loda, residing in the United States. I just retired and I'm back enjoying retirement. I have one important question. Mr. Fontaine or probably Mr. Linton most likely will answer. What are the typical requirements of the polling station as it pertains to what are the typical requirements of the polling station as it pertains to voter list and personal ID? Do we have to present an ID?
No. Under the current law, no.
No. Do we have a list at the polling station? Do we have a list of voters list at the polling station? Yes. And we got them, someone in charge referring to the list, is that correct? Yes. Cross-checking, double-checking. Yeah, so obviously, it should be accurate, right? It should be accurate as to who is voting, who is absent and who is present or who is dead.
Under the system,
Yeah.
right now, if you go to the polling station and say you're not Smith, you have to give your ballot.
With no ID.
Exactly. There's no ID. So if you go and say you're not Smith, they'll give you a ballot.
Okay. Okay. One more time.
No, we understand the question. We'll respond after.
Okay. No, it appears to me that no ID is required at the polling station. As we have in the United States, I've lived there for 39 years. You've got to present an ID, you refer to the list, they check you in and you vote. No, we don't have that. Is that correct? No. Thank you very much. Last question. I have been in the United States for 38 years, many of us have been in the United States for quite a few times, for quite a few years. And do we really, are there any issues in coming down here to vote as a citizen of Dominica? Are there any issues? Are we allowed to vote or are we not allowed to vote?
You're allowed to vote.
So we are allowed to vote. Okay, so we are qualified to vote. So I just want to be clear, and I'm certainly sure many of us have those questions, and we're not sure about it. Can I go to the polling station right now for the election and vote? I've been in the United States for 38 years. Can I go into the polling station to vote tomorrow? Here we go. So these are things we need to know. That's what I'd have to find out. So here we go again. So if my name is on the voters list, and I've been over there for 38 years, can I vote? Huh? No. We need to get those things straight to avoid any kind of issues. Without a doubt. Yes. Because I'm not retired, and many of us are retired coming back because, boy, they're running at us now. We got to go. We're back. We're coming back in flux. We're coming back. So we need to know where we stand as it pertains to voting. Thanks you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. Thank you. To the questions that you asked, number one, if you're what's that? Hello? Hello? Oh yes, the mic. Yes, the mic is working. So can you hear me? No, you can't hear me. What's that?
No, that is not our mic. That is not our mic. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. It's not. That's not.
Check the box. I'm sure about
Yeah, okay, to Mr. Rose, no question about him being overseas for 38 years. Mr. Rose has been overseas for 38 years. He's been absent from government for 38 years. Under the current legislation, Mr. Rose should not be able to vote. Because he's been overseas for more than 5 years. That's what the current legislation says. But many people who have lived overseas for 20 and 30 and 40 years have been paid by the Labour Party to come back to vote because their name is on the list. And the argument the Labour Party makes, is that once your name is on the list, then you will be allowed to vote. Your name is on the list, you'll be allowed to vote. You should not be able to vote if you have been absent for more than 5 years. But once the name stays on the list, because the Electoral Commission has not removed the name, you will be allowed to vote. Okay. On the question of whether he needs identification, under the current law, no. So, we have a situation in Dominica that if he shows up at the polling station and he says he's Lennox Linton, even though they know he's not Lennox Linton, they're going to have to give him ballot to vote. But at the same time, they let him swear to an affidavit that he is Lennox Linton, but they will give him a ballot to vote. That's the process that they use in Dominica. All right? Now, quickly there, I need my phone for this one. I just want to say that you hear the story about fingerprinting. You heard it, Maslin? You heard the story about fingerprinting? All right. Mr. Skerritt said fingerprinting will associate the voting process with criminality. So if I tell you that the same Roosevelt Skerritt, as Minister of Finance, approved your money to have an electoral ID card system that caters for fingerprinting. You heard what I just said? We have an ID card system that already caters for printing. It was bought many years ago. This is 2017, 8 years ago. Dominica, the Dominica Electoral Office explains how SEMLEC's biometric network system is used to securely gather citizens' data along with enrollment process to obtain the new electronic national identity card. SEMLEX developed the BNS, a unique system based on biometric identification and authentication, making it possible to automatically diagnose or monitor a person's identity with his fingerprints, his facial recognition, or the iris print image. So more than 7 years ago, we have the technology in Dominica to use the biometric of fingerprinting on the ID card. We've already bought it. Your money has already paid for it. And Mr. Skerritt, 8 years later in 2025, is fighting against it. Like he doesn't know what's going on.
Well,
Testing. All right. Good evening to all the persons inside here. I'm happy to see the crowd. I'm very excited to know that the movement has that energy. The men at the head table, good evening, and it's good that you guys are keeping the candle burning. I'm here tonight. Yes. I'm here tonight to listen, but at the same time, I cannot be among my people and don't put in a word of sympathy to what we are experiencing. Because if I don't speak, then I think I'll be holding back the aid to assist someone else that cannot speak. Because I've been hearing about the criticism about talking and talking and talking. But if we don't talk, everything will go to bed. And we have to keep talking, because based on what we are saying is what will energize the people to put in what we need. We need militancy. Militancy in the sense that our people need to be active. It doesn't mean that we have to fight. Like Mr. Edison James just said, we have to stand because it's for our rights. We must not allow people to take our rights away from us. Because we have people in the past, our ancestors, that fought and some died in order that we could talk tonight. So we must talk. But we must not just only talk. We must talk and we must act. Because I came from Guadeloupe. And as you all know, that I had a condition. But I was assisted. And every time I think back of my country, it hurts me. But the people in Guadeloupe, they come to my rescue. And they also is hurt about what is happening in our country. The people in Guadeloupe, their arms are wide open, ready to assist the Dominican people. But the one-man government will not allow the free communication, the free administration that would allow Dominica, Guadeloupe, and Martinique to work as one. I will tell you why. Because I stayed over there for 11 months. And every time I meet a Dominican, they tell me, we have to go back, because things are bad in our country. But Guadeloupe is nice, so we stay in. That's a Dominican. A French person will tell me that we know in your country things are very bad, but that is not how it used to be. So they go back to the past. The work that our ancestors did, they planted crops. What this government is saying to us today, that we must not take as our motto to develop our country. Agriculture. The people crying that Dominica used to support Guadeloupe with agriculture. But now they feel sorry for us. Because Dominica don't even have agriculture to supply Guadeloupe with what we used to give them. The food that they're buying from us is because of the way they feel to help us. But Guadeloupe has gone past us in agriculture. Bananas, one of the main crops that we had and we used to stand full of bananas. This government came in, and they talk about the has-been industry. I see bananas in Guadeloupe every week, and I feel so bad because the same way I see the bananas planted and taken care of, I know we in Dominica can do it. And what the people getting from it? Money. The market is there. But our government want us to be poor and hungry and begging on our knees for anything we want. That was our independence our ancestors left for us. So today, when we come talking electoral reform, it is not a new thing. It's something that was there long before, because all the countries in the region have been going through their electoral reform. They're reforming over and over, renewing their electoral reform. Dominica have never been in that line. And we are one of the only countries. And the French people say that Dominica problem is not the government. They say it's not the government. The problem is the people. They have a way talking about the people because they used to ask me, "O pepla? Sa pepla cafe?" Pepla is the people. And they're asking what the people doing, because to them, they could never accept what we drinking, swallowing, and taking to our home and feeding our children and our grandchildren with. So we have to be militant. We have to stand up. Because what we're standing for is not we know in existence. In Guadeloupe, the people cherish their elderlies. The elders, there's not one function that you could go to and don't see the elders around the table and little children. There's always little children following because they have a culture that they want to maintain. We in Dominica, we have something that we have to fight for. It's nothing about they will give us electoral reform, you know. When this government gives electoral reform, if you don't squeeze it off their hands, they will give you what they want. And what they want is electoral reform that they can continue to do what they're doing to us all the time. So our people, we need to understand that it is our duty now, with the energy we have, to maintain. We want electoral reform, we want it now, and the Dominican public, TEPLA, we need to come down on the government in order that we get electoral reform. True electoral reform is what we want. Thank you, and good night.
What I'd like to recommend on the way forward is that when Parliament is called, everybody who's inside here, please show up. After serving 11 years in Parliament, I understand what affects Prime Minister Scary. Okay, when people show up with the intention of going into Parliament, they'll put barricades, but we'll be on the outside before loudspeakers that he can hear us in Parliament. That is how we will get electoral reform in Dominica. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Darrell Phillip, and I'm the president of Minority Rights Dominica Meridam. Meridam recently, which almost seemed to be secret because nobody spoke about it. I do have a mic. Okay. And one of the things that I've learned is that two people, but I dare say that a lot of the problem is that we talk to people, but a lot of them do not understand what we are saying. There is a problem with communication, and there is a problem with a sense of money in your pocket, but poverty of being able to represent yourself, having the capacity to represent yourself at different places when you need to know when to speak up when you need to. And yeah, I might be unpopular for saying this, but what really happens is that people talk. We go out, and from all the advertisement I heard about this meeting here, this is speaking to the converted. The new people are not here. And we have to find a way of getting people to come into some of those meetings. We need new people. And we are not getting it. And I don't want to cast, I'm not like Mr. Edison James, who as a child, I listened to him on the radio because I always thought he was a great orator. You may not agree with him, but when he speaks, he spoke clearly and he said what he had to say. But we have to find ways of reaching out. And I don't think any of the political parties are doing that. There's some others who are in power, yes, and as the government, Mr. Skerritt. But you can write to him from January till December, and if he doesn't feel like answering, he doesn't answer you. And the only way I could get a listening ear about what Meridam represented was through overseas delegations to Dominica. And writing to the papers and getting a bad backlash. But it's strategic what we did for us to be able to go to the court to try to corner the government in some things that I thought was bad. You may not agree with it, but at the same time, we had a right, we fought for it, and we got it. But are we willing to learn from all of this? Meridam has written to various groups asking them to do some human rights programs. We complain about the government not responding, but yet some of the very people within this room and the organization hasn't even responded to us, even if we send them about 3 letters, asking for us to do a program with them called Rights, Laws, Beliefs. All right? And rights, laws, beliefs has nothing to do with any individual person, but we are just trying to educate people on what are the rights, what are laws, what are their beliefs, and how they come together to form a unified society. Now, adding to all of this, we can speak politics to people from January to December, and they're unable to process the information. You'll be wasting your time. So I'm asking now that the people who want to see change go out and work with the public to edify the public, to let them understand what are their human rights, what are their rights as just as humans, what are the laws and how the laws are supposed to be enacted, and what is a belief. Because some people grow up believing things and they believe it for the rest of their life, and anybody who comes to talk to them about it, they have a problem with them. Not that they have a base for it, but because they feel that they're louder than the person they have the right. And we have to try to work with those things to change the mindsets of the people. So I'm hitting on all sides here that the matter that we are facing is not that there's not a good message coming out, but I get a feeling that people do not understand the message that they're putting out, and we need to do something to deal with it. Thank you.
Okay, no, I think it should be working. Test, test. Okay, it's okay. Hold the mic right there, hold it right there, right.
Blessings. Can I be heard clearly? Is that so? Love, life, light, healing, joy, gratitude, courage, and sacrifice. That's for Mr. Thompson Fountain and Mr. Linton. And the other they call it Edison, Mr. James, Honorable. Blessings to you all. A few things quickly. People must come to the realization. The brother Mr. Phillips said something there. I am saying, based on there is more than one way to skin a cat. We go on Q95, limited reach, nationally speaking. Maybe have a greater listenership overseas than in Dominica. Maybe. And there have to be a way to reach out to people. That's why I suggested somebody with a PA system going around and have an open mic and inviting people to come and contribute, whether for or against. I mean, everything is money. So electoral reform. My people, sorry, when I say scare act, please do not get upset. Oh, Mr. James said the government. Let me say the government, it's an insult as well. The government of Dominica, one man. The man cannot imagine not being in the position in which he sits. Because it's like a man that commits crimes and he's wanted. The police is looking for him, but there's a vigilante group still looking for him. So the safest place he can be is sitting in that position, knowing he has criminals within the police force, the structure of the police force, to protect him. Now, Melissa Popon scared, she said she have Navy SEALs and snipers, meaning assassins, outside of the ambits or control of the police. So electoral reform, it's not a talk. We have spoken enough, but not too much. We have said enough for people to learn, but how many people it have reached? And I am saying, nobody there, Thompson Fountain, Mr. Linton, or Mr. James. The young people of Dominica have to come to the realization, if somebody stole something that is yours, look at how fast we kill one another. Why should we allow politicians to steal our democracy, to steal our rights, and we sit in there as what the opposition is doing? I'm a bit incapacitated right now. I was once upon a time going Guadeloupe, maddening with guns and marijuana and drugs. I'm trying to behave myself up, but nobody's going to intimidate me. I'd rather death than intimidation. And I am saying people have to be quite innovative and creative, improvise ways to clog the arteries that are feeding the heart. Everybody wants to come to Rosemont to think. And you have to take measures that will make people feel uncomfortable and inconvenient to a lot of people. But when push comes to shove and you refuse to get trampled, you have to push back. So please, electoral reform, Dr. Fountain or Lendop, so I did say things. Why people ask, where is the electoral commission? You cannot have slaves on a plantation for them to do what they want without your endorsement or approval. And that's what Duncan Stowe, Lennox Lawrence, and Alec Lawrence and them are. Slaves on a plantation, but they're highly paid. Millions of dollars. So just like David and Goliath, you're saying, but how the hell am I going to get rid of Goliath? Look at how the man tall and he have one big sword and armor and everything. Oh, pebble and a stone. Did he knock down Goliath? Just wake up and stop being damn cowards in that country.
Thank you very much. We'll take one more person and then we will wrap up.
All right. Good evening.
Hello. Yes. Good evening. I'm going to say a few things. One.
Speaker. Yes. All right. Okay. Just wanted to add a few points. Discussion. We have been talking electoral reform since May 2005 after the stolen election. So that's 20 years this year. We're talking electoral reform. And I think it's so long. The message have been out there, and a lot of us were probably tired, we have been there, back and forth, we have seen elections come and go, and nothing being done. And one man is holding the country ransom. One person again. And I think we as citizens should change our language, our body language. We have to be more assertive. We have to be more firm. We have to be more radical, more militant, more vigilant. We are too timid and passive. We have tried from Mr. James right down to Earl Williams, Ron Green, Lennox Linton, Hector John, everybody has lead of the opposition or lead of the party, wrote to scary, wrote to the government, wrote to the OECS, CARICOM, Commonwealth, everywhere. They know what happened in the country. But people are saying, what is the opposition doing? We have been doing. We continue to do. But what are you doing, my judge? There's no I. If you look at it, Tim, there's no I in me. Or there's no if you look at our, if you look at we, there's no I. We have to change our language. Us. What are we doing? Not what they're doing. We have to change our language. Scary, don't understand or respect papers. You heard Mr. Phillips spoke earlier on. How many times they wrote to the government? How many response we got from the government? Nothing. But when we stand, when the truckers stopped the road recently, you have police on the road. The government responded in a way they may be fool them. But they responded. May going to give us 10 years. Maybe this is going to give 10 years. Maybe 2025 going to give 10 years. This is how rebel stood up against Roosevelt Square. That transpired. Everybody for the other saw us refight. We saw that coming a long time. This is our fight. This is our last push, our final push. And we cannot allow Roosevelt Square to go to Parliament with that set of legislation. We have to prevent him from reaching Parliament. Because if he reaches the Parliament, he'll be able to surround himself with police officers and pass his law. We have to prevent that from happening. If you do not respect the people, he has to hear from the people. Thank you very much.
Okay, one comment very briefly, please.
We, right? The last meeting we had in one member of the United States. I saw Bosodo, right? And I'm saying all that to say, right? Unless we come together. You're saying that all the time, right? We cannot fight Skerrit individually. We got to come together. If all you have to go behind closed doors and say, okay, we're going to take him down, when we take him down, Freedom will get one seat, this one will get, do that. But we cannot be fighting him individually. It is not going to work, period.
Thank you very much. Okay, so due to time constraints, we can no longer take any more speakers, but can everyone hear me? Yes. All right, so we're going to have to try projecting our voices from here on out to avoid this. So, due to time constraints, we may not be able to take more people, but this is not the last town hall meeting. On the 4th of February, we will be heading to Castle Bruce for a second of the series of town hall meetings that the United Workers' Party will be having for you, our lovely citizens and patriots of Dominica. That is to be discussed, determined, and then announced. But we will, my apologies, I was not well informed. We will be in St. Joseph on the 13th. The 13th.
By the way, on the 13th, which is on a Thursday, by Bobby's Bar in St. Joseph, we will be in St. Joseph. It will not be a town hall. It will be a public meeting. And it's going to be large, big. So we invite everybody we are going to raise up St. Joseph on the 13th of next month. But remember, Castle Bruce also is on the 4th in Castle Bruce. So those of you who are vehicle, we're going to make our way in Castle Bruce, and we're going to help people in Castle Bruce to wake up Castle Bruce. So now we are going around Dominica and wake the people of Dominica up. So we're starting here tonight, Castle Bruce next on the 4th, St. John the 13th. I want to see all you. And let's put our mouth for our money.
All right, thank you very much. So, as he said, on the 4th, we'll be in Castle Bruce, and on the 13th, we will be in St. Joseph. And now, to close, we will have an evaluation and closing remarks from the Honorable Party Leader, Dr. Thompson Fountain.
Okay, thank you. I'll be very, very brief in this evaluation. The 13th is an important day, by the way. The 13th, I'm back in court for the 21st time. I think it's a Guinness record. The most court appearances without a solution, without a result. So appearance number 21, February 13th, and so I go to court in the morning, and the night will be in St. Joseph. So this is the first, as you heard, we continue around the island, and I'm hearing you, I'm hearing what you were saying. And I know I was also looking at the comments online, and there is concern, again, people are saying, well, we are talking too much. It's important that we let people know what we are standing for. It's important. And as you heard, the next time, we don't know when it will be, but when there is going to be the second reading, every single one of you must find your way at the Parliament building. For the first reading, there were just a handful of us present. Okay, we want to get those numbers up, and that's the reason why we are doing this tour around the island, so that people can understand exactly what it is that they're standing for. Okay, so we are going to continue to be doing that. And we have to stand firm. As I said, this is about the future of our country, and we should not take this lightly. Let us keep fighting. Let us keep striving forward. I think tonight was a good start to our Round the Island education tour on electoral reform, on the issues that matter to the Dominican public. For those of you in the Southeast, tomorrow night we are meeting with the farmers, because we are going to be working as a United Workers' Party to do our part to revamp the agriculture sector in Dominica, even while we are outside of government. We are starting with the farmers. We are going to be talking to the farmers of Dominica. We are going to bring hope to the farmers of Dominica. We are going to be talking about how we can rebuild our agriculture sector. The same sector this government stole from the people of Dominica, we are going to work to bring it up together. All right, so if you're in the Southeast, likely tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. All right, we want to see all of the farmers. The farmers meeting. If you're not a farmer, you can listen at home, but only farmers where we are going to be discussing with the farmers there of the Southeast. All right, so like I said, I just wanted to express my personal thanks. We get a form of thanks from our PRO, but I want to express my personal thanks to all of you, to our President, Honorable Lennox Linton, to our former Prime Minister, Honorable Edison James, and to all of you who contributed. I really want to express my personal thanks. Those of you who are here with us, and to the thousands of you who are listening online, special thanks to you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support to the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica. Together we can, and together we must. God bless you. And have a good night.
and we have come to the official end. On behalf of the United Workers' Party, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for making tonight's town hall meeting a success. Special thanks to the Honorable Dr. Thompson Fountain, political leader, for your... Thank you, everyone. Have a safe drive home.
This was the UWP Team Dominica Town Hall meeting on electoral reform. We thank you for joining us this evening.